As many of you know, Kobold Press's Midgard setting is one of my favorite places to play D&D. But where did it get its start? Where did it all come from? Well, if we trace Kobold Press's history back far enough, it all started with the city of Zobeck, a location I've mentioned before in many videos, and it is a great place to start any of your Midgard D&D games. Over time, they have developed an entire world that started in this one city, and they've also compiled all the information about that city into a single source. So today, I want to take a look at the city of Zobeck set in Midgard. Let's get into it. Hello everybody, I'm Joe and this is the DM Toolbox, your go-to place to get all the tools you need to enhance your D&D games. Before we get started today, a quick reminder about my 1,000 subscriber giveaway. As of now, we are so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers on DM Toolbox, and when we cross that threshold, I'm giving away Spectacular Settlements from Nord Games, along with 4 decks that they also provided for me to give to one lucky winner. So check out my Spectacular Settlements giveaway video for details on how you can win. Next up, make sure you're following me over on Twitter at Toolbox_DM and on TikTok at DM Toolbox. I'll provide information on future giveaways over there, as well as a lot of short reviews over on my TikTok channel. Okay, let's talk about the city of Zobeck. So Zobeck is this central city in the Midgard setting. It's basically smack dab in the middle of the map, and it is where Midgard got its start. Back when they first started creating Midgard the world, they called it Midgard, the setting for Zobeck. So it is this really neat spot that has just a lot of lore around it because it's one of the oldest locations that Kobold Press created. And it's unique in that it is not a city that is ruled by a kingdom. There's no king, there's no country. It is just a city-state. And it's ruled by this council. They, elect their leaders, so to speak. And there's a lot of these different districts and locations you can go. You can set an entire campaign just in the city of Zobeck. So I want to share with you guys this book that I picked up recently, the Zobeck Gazetteer, and just tell you a little bit about it. So if you're looking for more of an urban campaign, whether you're looking to do all the way from 1 to 20, or maybe just start your campaign in Zobeck, make it maybe the player's home city, this is a very useful book. So just to kind of start off here with just a quick table of contents, you can see here there's a lot going on. This book, by the way, is about, it's 147 pages, including a very handy index with some cool cover art here. And the table of contents goes on to another page. And what does this cover? So this covers a little bit about the history of Zobeck, which I find fascinating to begin with. And I spent a lot of time just reading those first few pages of this book and referencing some older Kobold Press material to really get a good understanding of the location, because I do plan on spending at least the first 5 levels of my campaign around this. So I wanted it to be a location that I felt confident talking to and being fleshed out. It then goes into the city itself, talks about, a little bit about an overviews of the different districts, what life is like, what the currency is like, what the politics are like, the different locations and trade routes and things like that. It then breaks up and has specific chapters on each of the districts. One of the coolest ones being the Kobold Ghetto. So kobolds play a fairly major part in the city because the city itself has a pretty dark history. There's a product that if you're lucky enough to have or find called Return to Castle Shadowcrag, which is kind of a retelling of a much older module from back when Kobold Press was first starting out called Castle Shadowcrag. And it's this castle with this kind of dark history with this connections to the Shadowfell and connections with this family that basically ruled Zobeck for a long, long time. And they were not good rulers, not good people. And there was an uprising and a rebellion that basically led to it becoming a free city-state. Now, in the current timeline of 5th edition, that all happened about 90 years ago, the rebellion. If you're playing in Pathfinder, it's more like 80 years ago. So they do update the timelines, by the way, to reflect what's going on in the world between the different editions and releases of some of these books. So anyways, all that happened, and you can find out a lot of the history if you go back to some of those older materials, but really it's all captured here. What I found was, as I read some of those older materials, the exact same wording was in this book. So this book is a great just one-stop shop to know all about Zobeck. So they do cover the history, and then we get into, like I said, the district. So the kobolds were basically the slave labor miners kind of thing. They would be willing to go into places that people couldn't. So when they helped in the rebellion, they were given rights, so to speak, and part of the city. Now they're still kind of treated like second-class citizens, but they are citizens. They get a whole section of the city, and it's almost a city within a city. They have their own government in their district. They have a king or kings, as power seems to rotate quickly there. Other districts are, we have, let's see here. So we got the Kobold Ghetto. We've got the Docks District. We've got the Gear District, which is cool. That's where you're going to find a lot of clockwork stuff. We've got the Collegium, which is like a magical college. We have the Citadel District, where the castle is. There's the Cartways, which are these kind of hidden back roads. They're off limits, but there is ways to get back there. And it's like back in the day, the nobles would use it for their own purposes, to meet mistresses and do shadowy deals. And now it's like where, the riffraff hangs out, the rogues, and even, you might find devils or demons back in there, striking deals and doing stuff. So there's a lot that goes on. There's also a merchant district, a market district, the upper district, the temple district, the lower district. So it's a big city, and there is a map. In fact, if you've got the Midgard World Book, which includes the map of Midgard, there is on the backside of that a full-on map of Zobeck. But here it is in the book as well, all labeled with numbers and stuff like that. So all the information's there. They even have like tables here about like what does a house or a manor or a villa, buildings, all that kind of stuff cost. I mean, they really flesh this place out to be, to provide you with a lot of information to be very alive. They talk about the gods, the cults, the relics of Zobeck. One of the main gods in Zobeck is like the gear god. That's what most people worship, but others have influence there as well. Like Lada is kind of a goddess of healing. There's the red goddess. There's the beer goddess. So there's a lot that you can do with your clerics, with your paladins, with religion, with cults. Such a cool place. So this is really a campaign setting book, and it's cool. I mean, like I said, this is even filled with some great art. I always am impressed with the quality of the art Kobold Press does. So it is, it's a cool book. I definitely recommend it if you want to set part or all of your game in Zobeck. This is something to pick up. Now, you want to run some adventures. Another book, and this one might be a little hard to find, though you can still get it as a PDF easily enough, is Streets of Zobeck. So this is just filled with some great adventures. Now, this is going to be an all black and white book. You're not going to have color images in here, but you get several adventures in here, and then you get a few other things in here too. So we have the Faces of Zobeck, places, and then so the Faces of Zobeck is kind of a cool chapter because it's got some really cool NPCs in here that you can throw into your game, have your players run into, things like that. Like for instance, there's this kobold that drives his cart around and he'll offer you tours, and he could be a really cool little contact and a fun way to introduce your players to Zobeck. Like they arrive and he offers to give them a tour, and from there he can introduce them to people and things like that. And then we've got several adventures, ranging in level from level 1 on up. So there's one called Everyone Lies, which I might actually end up making one of my first adventures for my new Midgard campaign. There's one called Rust. There's The Fish in the Rose, The First Lab, Rebuilding a Good Man, Ripper, and Flesh Fails. So let's just take a quick look here so I can see and tell you. Flesh Fails is a level... it's a level 11 adventure. So You can get up to at least through tier 2 adventuring pretty well using this book in Zobeck. So this might be a good one to pick up as a supplement to the Gazetteer if you're looking to run some adventures in Zobeck. There's also a recent Warlock that was released on Zobeck with some more cool information. So if you're not a patron of Kobold Presses, make sure you go to the Kobold Press patron, and at the very least, like I do the $6 level with them, and I get the PDFs every month of both Warlock and Warlock Layers. And it's a ton of information. It's kind of like their version of UA, but I don't want to call it quite playtest. It's more than that. A lot of it, though, does get adapted into books later on, and I'll cover more of the Warlocks in another video, but there is one on Zobeck that was released fairly recently that's worth checking out. So I think that's about it for today. I don't like to make these videos run too long, but Zobeck is definitely one of the coolest locations in the Midgard setting. You can also just grab it and throw it into your own setting if you really wanted to. It's a very unique, self-contained little city that there's just so much potential for. So definitely check it out. I will put links in the description to the Kobold Press site, where you can pick up both of the books, the Zobeck Gazetteer and Streets of Zobeck, which Streets of Zobeck might only be available in PDF at this point, but you should be able to pick up physical copies of this guy at the very least. Also I'll put a link to their Patreon so you can go check that out. I highly recommend the Patreon. So much good stuff on there. Also, make sure you're taking a look at Kobold Press's blog. They do a lot of cool blog posts on their site with some really cool articles and cool information that can be really useful to help flesh out your games. So make sure you check all that out. Don't forget about the giveaway, and that's it for this week, guys. So until next time, roll those dice.